This is the story of something that happened to me not so long ago, and will forever haunt me. I'm 14 years old and I live in South Africa, which is a place where crime is very common. Occasionally, I hear gunshots outside my house, but that's something that is normal here. I live in a big house, with security cameras everywhere and motion detectors. My family's house has 2 gates, just as a safety precaution. Power outages are also normal in South Africa, because of our corrupt government. Anyway, I was sitting and eating dinner with my family, when my brother asked me, "Hey, did you hear that?" I replied with no. He went on to say that he heard something break outside on our patio. Like a wine bottle or something. Since I'm not paranoid like my brother, I finished eating and went to go study for my exam, and sat on the couch in my living room. My parents announced that they were going to the gym, as they do on Saturday nights. So I said goodbye to them and carried on working. As I was working, I heard a crash from outside near the patio, like my brother said. What happened next sends shivers down my spine to this day. My brother walked into the living room looking panicked. I'd never seen him so scared in my life before. He sat down next to me and stared at me for about 10 seconds with a look of complete and utter fear, his eyes wide open. "What's wrong?" I stuttered. "Upstairs, now," he exclaimed while grabbing my arm viciously. I asked him what the hell is going on once we were upstairs. He didn't answer. He just started winding the shutter down. The shutter is a large door that connects the downstairs to the upstairs. We are only supposed to use the shutter in emergencies, as it is made of a strong metal that is hard for an intruder to break through. He then ushered me to his room, the 3rd story of our house, which overlooks our garden and patio. Putting a single finger over his mouth to shush me, he pointed to what looked like a dark figure by our patio. At first, it looked like a long shrub. But as I adjusted and focused my eyes, I had to stop myself from shrieking. The realization made my bones freeze in place, and my blood felt colder than ice. A man holding a broken wine bottle was pacing around our patio. He looked about 5'9", with a shaggy beard. That's not what scared me the most about him. His eyes were wide open and he was smiling. A smile so sinister and crazed. He looked as if he'd just been let out of a mental institute. "Who is he?" I said. "Bad mistake." The man turned to us and looked directly into my eyes with that same agonizing, crazed look that gave me goosebumps. He then started to run, a slow, staggering run that made him look injured. Towards the door to the inside of the house he went, and I was sure he was coming for us. I was so shaken up, I could hardly breathe, and so was my brother, and without a word he took my hand and we headed to my room on the 2nd floor. Since I'm his little sister, he always considered me his responsibility. So he held my hand and told me everything was going to be okay, even though I knew inside me that it wasn't. Just then we heard slow clapping footsteps coming up the stairs. The shutter was closed, so he wouldn't be able to get to us. Then, at just the right time, the power cut, leaving my brother and I in darkness. But my brother stumbled around and closed my door, locking it. He then explained to me that without the power, the shutters can be easily pried open. I thought for sure that my life was going to end soon. Just then I heard an excruciating sound, like the shutters being forced open. I then headed for my drawer to get my hunting knife that I had received as a birthday gift. In my right hand I clutched my knife, and in the other, I held my brother's hand. Suddenly, the sound of the shutters opening stopped. What replaced it was the sound of something metal, presumably a knife, scraping up against my bedroom door. We sat there shaking, not knowing what to do. When I asked my brother if he had his phone on him, he stated that he had already called 112, which is our 911. But we both knew that the 112 squad would take a long time to come, since here in South Africa, they usually hang out at McDonald's instead of coming for their duties. The scraping at the door continued for what seemed like ages. Seconds felt like minutes, and then my brother made me hide in my cupboard and hand him my hunting knife. With my heart racing and my palms sweating, I heard the sound of police vehicles outside and my brother used the gate remote to open up for them. They rushed in and captured the man. The police told us the man had been on the run from the local asylum for the past 3 months, and had been charged with manslaughter 2 times before he was sent to the local asylum. If my brother hadn't been there to help me, God knows what would have happened to me. I hope the man is recovering, and that he is getting all the help he needs. Sometimes, in my nightmares, I still hear the sound of the knife scraping against my door. This happened a long time ago, back in 1989. I hope I can tell the story in a way that conveys just how bad this scared me. I still don't know what it really was or what happened, so I make no claims as to the explanation. I still think about this sometimes. I was 19 years old and I was working in an after-school care that was ran out of the building of a small church in the rural southern town where I lived. The church was really small and in the shape of an L, with a door at the top of the L, the sanctuary at the elbow of the L, and a door at the short end of the L. There was also a full basement that was furnished and used for the Sunday school rooms and where the kids from the after-school program did homework and played games sometimes. There were only about 12 or 13 kids in the program most of the time, and I think one time we swelled to something like a whopping 17. Because the church was small and the community was small, there were no aspirations to have a large program, and the entire thing was really to provide a service to parents in the church. Anyway, what I would do every weekday was attend community college classes in the morning and then go straight from classes to the church and work on homework or read until the kids were dropped off by the school bus. I usually had between 2 to 2.5 hours either completely alone in the church, or sometimes the pastor would stop by and work in his office. But I was mostly alone. I never heard or saw anything at all, and I was locked inside the building so no one could come in. Even when the kids were there, the doors stayed locked for safety. I did this for a full year and a summer, and then the second year my best friend at the time came to work with me. She and I were both pretty serious kids in the sense that we didn't drink or do drugs. We weren't into anything paranormal or spooky. Just normal young girls who went to college classes and went to work. One day not too long after she started working with me, I had the kids in the basement playing games while some of them worked on homework. The deal was that one of us would prepare snacks in the kitchen upstairs while the other one entertained the kids. She was upstairs making snacks when all of a sudden I hear the door at the top of the basement stairs open, and she comes running down the stairs calling my name. I could hear the fear in her voice, so I met her at the bottom of the stairs and she was extremely scared. She was not one to be dramatic at all, and I had never seen her scared before, and I'd known her since the 8th grade. I asked her what was wrong and she said, in a trembling voice, that she'd heard someone in the sanctuary. I said something along the lines of, "What? No way, we're here by ourselves. It must be your imagination." But she was adamant that she'd heard someone upstairs in the sanctuary, and she was scared to death. Again I told her she must be mistaken, and she said, "I'm not kidding. There's somebody up there moving around in the sanctuary, and I saw something. I don't know what it was." The sanctuary, in the elbow of the L shape of the church, was right beside the kitchen where she'd been preparing snacks. I was a brave kid and had more bravery than brains at the time. I told her to stay in the basement with the kids and that I was going up to check it out. That scared her as well, and she told me not to go. It really was a stupid thing for me to do, considering that if someone had been in up there I could have been attacked and I really wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. But anyway, I went up to the top of the stairs and stuck my head out the door and first made sure no one was in the hallway. Next, I checked all of the Sunday school rooms down the long arm of the L, along with the pastor's office. I found nothing, so by this time I was sure she'd heard the wind, it was fall and windy, or heard the foundation of the building settle and it spooked her. Next, I checked the bathrooms at the short end of the L and made sure that all of the doors to the building were locked. No one had come into the building since we got there, and the doors had been locked when I arrived that day, so I was absolutely sure we were alone. Then, I walked up to the door of the sanctuary and looked through the small window at the top of the door, and saw nothing. There was a row of pews on each side of the sanctuary, a pulpit up front, and on the left side of the pulpit was a closed door that led to the choir area. So I opened one of the doors and walked into the sanctuary. I slowly made my way up to about halfway of the pews and I stopped and looked around. Everything was dead silent. I said, "Hello, is there anybody here?" And just as I finished saying that, the door to the left-hand side of the pulpit slowly swung all the way open. I can't really put into words the feeling that hit my body. The blood drained down out of my torso and into my legs, which both tried to run and were bolted to the floor at the same time. A jolt of adrenaline surged through my body, and at the same time I felt like I was moving in slow motion as I turned and bolted out of the sanctuary, and down the stairs yelling to get the kids out of the building. We got the kids out back and debated what to do. This was the time before cell phones, so one of us still had to go back inside and call the pastor to come down, or we all had to stand outside and wait for a parent or someone from the church to come by and check things out, which could be a very long time. I went back inside to the pastor's office and quickly used the phone to call his house and ask for someone to come by. When the church was searched, nothing was found, and everyone thought we had overactive imaginations. Like I said in the beginning, I make no claims as to what opened that door or what my friend heard, but something, or someone was in that church with us that day, and I never felt comfortable alone there again. This happened when I was 14. It was a normal night, around 9 p.m. Me and my little cousin are at his house. I'm babysitting for the night while my mom and aunt are shopping and my dad and uncle are at the movie theater. Now, we're sitting there and I was feeling really strange. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it, so I just kept watching TV with my cousin. The feeling wasn't going away, so I got up and walked to the back door to lock it, and when I came back through the kitchen I saw what was causing my weird feeling. In the window there was a very decrepit and homeless-looking man, just staring into the window, looking at my cousin. My protective older cousin mode turned on. I pretended like I didn't see the man, and I told my little cousin that we needed to go upstairs, because our parents would be home soon and they wouldn't want him to be staying up late. So I went upstairs and put him to bed, knowing damn well that there was a man outside that wanted in. I was about 125 pounds and 5 feet 8 inches at the time, and I played football for my school. I remember going down the stairs and straight into the kitchen, grabbing one of those meat tenderizing hammers, then turned back to the window where I saw him before. He was not there anymore. I ran back to the front door and checked that it was locked. Both the deadbolt and the knob were locked. I ran back upstairs with my meat tenderizer, went into my cousin's room and sat down in front of the door. He asked me what I was doing, and I said that he didn't need to worry about it and that he should keep his head low. I first called the cops, then my dad and uncle. The cops would take half an hour and my dad and uncle were 45 minutes away. Then I hear a window shatter and the sound of heavy boots walking around on the main floor. I told my cousin to stay calm, hide under the covers and to keep silent. I could hear the guy walking around downstairs. It was horrifying. I gripped the meat tenderizer as hard as I could and waited. About 5 minutes passed and then I hear the boots walking up the stairs. At this point I felt like I was having a heart attack. My cousin's door is no more than 10 feet from the stairs. I heard him opening the doors to my aunt and uncle's room, then the bathroom. He ended up walking back downstairs and I heard him open the door to the basement. 15 minutes later the police showed up and burst into the house. Turned out the guy was loose from a mental hospital 1 province away. To this day, I can't stop thinking about what could have happened if he got to us, since he quite obviously wasn't stable in the head.